So I currently work for my eye specialist at Robina, and my job title is Clerical Officer and Assistant. Main aspects of my role is currently reception. I do a lot of patient summaries. Once the doctors have seen the patient, they dictate their notes. I then type them all up for the patients or for referring doctors. I do a lot of surgery bookings. I check people in for the surgeries. And then once a colleague actually comes back from maternity leave, they're going to start training me up on the clinic side. So I'll be an orthoptist assistant. So essentially, so you say if you walked into like OPSM or Specsavers, and then they say you should go see a specialist because you have like premature glaucoma or macular degeneration or retina detachment or something to do with your eyes, you will then come see us and our doctors will actually do those tests, and then they'll say you have like a retina detachment, so or you have floaters or something, so we want you to come in and we will operate on your eye and get that fixed. So the orthoptists are the girls that actually do the test, so it's like a 4-year degree or something, and then they do the test, and they will then give you off to the doctor and say these are all your vision fields, your OCT scans, whatever test else they do. Doctors will then say based on those results we'll further do tests, or that's good enough, but we'll then talk to you about possibly doing the surgeries and stuff. So they want to train me as being an assistant to the orthoptist. Typical day in the clinic side of things is obviously you're greeting patients when they come in, you're doing your phone calls, your surgery booking, so you'll send them off to the doctors, so you check them all in, send them off to the doctors, the assistants and the doctors will see them, they'll then come out, you'll then process their payments, and then if you need to do a surgery booking for them, you'd fill out all the consent forms, print it all out, get them to actually sign it all, agree to it all, make sure they have all the relevant information. So like their fasting instructions, if they're on any blood thinners, they need to come off them, if they need to cancel, how much it will cost if they're uninsured patients. Then we book them all in, it's all done. We will then prepare charts for following days. We will then handle phone calls coming in and out as well. We deal with Medicare rebates too. Then again, yeah, general admin, typing, office stock as well. Probably the most enjoyable thing is learning so much about the eye, because I've never done anything in regards to the eye before this job. As one of these things, I kind of just walked into it and I was bombarded with terminology, bombarded with like how Medicare works, how much it all costs and everything. And yeah, it's constantly learning about the eye. It's one of those things where you just never think that there's so much to it because it's a tiny little thing. So, yeah. Important skills for this particular job was be working under pressure, double checking everything. So you're making sure that the patient you're booking for surgery is definitely getting a left eye surgery and not a right eye surgery, or vice versa. That they're actually getting a cataract surgery and not a cornea surgery, or vice versa. Making sure that you're booking them in at the appropriate times. So some patients require injections every 3 weeks for 4 months or something. So obviously if for whatever reason they have to cancel one of those injections, you will then have to consciously make the effort of checking that they don't have follow-up injections already booked in, because that will completely throw out the timeline. Pretty much a good memory and organization as well, because you're going to have, in this average day, we can easily book up to 38 patients in a day for one doctor. So we have 2 doctors that are there on a permanent basis. They kind of rotate between our Robina location and our Ballina location, and then we have 2 visiting doctors that come in once a month as well. So like today and tomorrow, we will have 2 doctors on site. So today we had 2 doctors doing surgeries, but we only have the 1 theatre. So your nurses had to make sure they were checking in patients at the right time. They'd call them to come in at certain times, that all their paperwork was all done. So then when the admin staff come in, we can literally just check all the paperwork, make sure all of that stuff's signed. If they have to pay for anything, we know exactly how much they're paying and whatnot. And then the admin nurses can take them straight in for admission, the doctors can do their surgeries and it just rolls on. Challenging thing about the job is that obviously we have 2 locations, Robina and Ballina. The locations don't talk to each other in terms of patient files. And then obviously because the doctors based at Robina go down to Ballina once a week and vice versa, if they're in Ballina and they have a patient in Ballina who's obviously had something drastic happened, but the doctor's now at Robina, Ballina staff have to call us and be like, we're faxing through this patient's latest clinic notes, we need X, Y, and Z done, or we need a new script written and everything. Then obviously I have to find the doctor who could be in a consult with another patient, get them to write the script or get hold of them essentially and be able to send it off back down to Ballina before something drastic happens to said patient. So previously, career-wise, that's led me to this job was probably working in administration previously, was that I really enjoyed doing administration work. So I liked the Monday to Friday, typical 9 to 5 job and doing the admin stuff. Not so much the reception side of things, but more of the paperwork, the actual organising, all of that type of stuff. And then when I was job looking, I so happened to stumble upon this particular job that was based in a health clinic. So they kind of went hand in hand with each other, really. So my decision predominantly based for choosing this degree was that I wanted to be a doctor. So at high school, I did all the science the science subjects except physics. So I did all of them, did really well in them. So then I looked at the different degrees. I was tossing up between health science and biomed. I actually decided health science because you have the option of doing a major as well, which is what I end up doing. After that, it was kind of just like, wanted to still do a doctor, but my interest wasn't as strong and stuff. But I still sat the exam the GameSat exam to become a doctor. And after sitting the exam, I was pretty solid in my decision that being a doctor wasn't for me anymore. So I finished off the degree and kind of took a break from the health field as well, because I just needed a break from it, just needed to stop from it. And then when I was job hunting again, I stumbled upon this job that happened to have health and administration in the one, which was still sticking to the health side, but you had the option of branching out onto an admin side as well. So my degree actually is health science with a major in biochemistry and molecular biology. After that, I actually did a work placement at Gold Coast Hospital before it moved across the road in clinical measurements. I did that for about 10 weeks. So I worked with like the heart, lungs and brain. With the degree now though, I am thinking of actually pursuing a Masters of Health Administration. So while I was doing my degree, I worked at Big W. At the end of my degree, I continued to work at Big W on the weekends while I did my placement at the hospital. At the end of the hospital, there were no current jobs going, even though my bosses had all said, we'll help you, we'll see what we can do, X, Y, and Z, but obviously we can only do if there's a position open. Unfortunately, when I did finish the placement, there wasn't a position open, so I continued working at Big W. I continued looking for other work. I wasn't able to, so I stayed at Big W for an extra 2 years after, and then I just realised there was nothing left for me on the Gold Coast. I'd pretty much saturated everybody with a resume. So I decided to move to London, take a whole completely step back from everything, do something that I wanted to do. Went to London. I lived there for 2 years, travelled for 2 years, and pretty much just had a good time. Got a job in admin, which is it's quite easy to get a job over there in something basic if you're an Australian or a Kiwi, especially because it's a 2-year visa if you don't have a passport or an ancestry visa. Obviously my 2 years had expired, so I came home and I probably spent about another month trying to find a job before landing the job that I currently have at my eye specialist. When I first started at uni, I probably, if I had known what qualifications were required for different aspects or a typical lab job, because at the time, after I decided not to pursue becoming a doctor, I was looking at being a lab technician. So I think if I had known more in terms of qualifications or what was required to get into that particular field, I probably would have pursued it a lot more than leaving it to the last minute and then kind of hoping something fell out of the sky and just like being able to walk into it. Advice for commencing students would be enjoy your first 6 months. Actually do the subjects and sit down at the end of your first semester and work out if that's what you want to do. If it is something you really want to do and you enjoyed that first 6 months, you will more than likely enjoy the rest of your degree. If you kind of on the borderline of it, I'd say stick it out for the next semester and by the census date kind of know if you do want to keep going or not, because there's nothing worse than going halfway through the degree or 2 years in and then realizing you don't want to do it anymore and then completely switching out to like a law degree or something. Other advice would be suss out the job market early as well. So a lot of people when I went through hoped that they would be able to finish their degree and within the last 6 months of the degree, they'd be able to just walk into a job. It wasn't the case for a lot of us. A lot of us struggled for a good year, 2 years, 3 years. It took me about 5 years to get into the health field. So suss out the job market and what you need to do to get into that particular field that you're wanting to get into.